Hello to everyone. And so weather here is much cooler and raining, but not cats and dogs, what in English called drizzling. So like that. And so very pleasant. Not very sunny, but very pleasant. That's why I'm wearing this relatively warm honor Zen, what you call it. And I'm well. And in the monastery, things are okay. But as you have seen on the news, the number of coronavirus is increasing, and particularly the state where we are. And, the last 10 days number has increased quite dramatically. That's all, really, that's all. And nothing dramatic happened in the monastery, also around the Tibetan community. The small town where we do our small shoppings called Kushanaga, and there are a few, maybe 2 or 3 people died some time ago. That is really it. So, okay. We'll do the serious business. Okay. So, we're still reading this nice prayer, the Chambe Melam, the prayer by the Maitreya, to for cultivation of love, compassion, and it is relatively short, but there are very nice verses to discuss, and not only the meaning of the verses to be discussed, but also to see what we can put into practice. As we saw the previous, the half of the text we already covered. And those verses are mainly, explaining, encouraging us, to engage in those 7 different practices. And then now we are reading the section where, the practitioners who are interested, who are engaging in the bodhisattva's path, and to those practitioners, how to engage into the bodhisattva's path. So that's what where we started, I think, from verse, I think from verse 12. And last week our reading was verse 15 and 14, 15, and those 2 verses. And those 2 verses are, explaining one of the most important, what you call the cultivations need to be done while we are in the spiritual journey. That is cultivation of wisdom. Among the wisdoms, here wisdom realizing emptiness, and wisdom realizing emptiness is the actual antidote to get rid of the root of the sufferings, root of our mental distortions. And so that is what verse the 14 and 15. And today we will start from verse 16. So from verse 16, then until verse, I think verse 24, 24, 20, yeah, say 22, end of 22, describes the technically called the six perfections in Tibetan, Parjin Tuk. So in the Mahayana Sutras or in the Bodhisattva Sutras, the teachings which are attributed to the historical Buddha Gautama, among the teachings which are categorized as a Mahayana Sutras, like this, the perfection of wisdom sutras, Panchaparamita Sutras, and the other Mahayana Sutras, of course, the explicit topic, the subject, is on emptiness, cultivation of realization of wisdom, realizing emptiness. That is the explicit topic, the cultivation of wisdom, realizing emptiness, and the implicit topic, or what you call the implicit or explicit. I'm literally translating from Tibetan. In Tibetan, it says "moden temba." That means implicit explanation subject or the topic. Moden badun literally it means hidden. Baba, hidden topic or implicit topic. And the implicit topic is, the cultivation of bodhicitta, of course, love, compassion, great compassion, bodhicitta, and along that to enhance the bodhicitta. Then, the many bodhisattvas' activities, or technically called deeds, bodhisattvas' deeds. Chanju Sembe Joba. Joba can be behavior, joba can be deeds, activities, So bodhisattvas' deeds, some quite often translated, or bodhisattvas' activities, being a bodhisattva, being cultivated, what you call the bodhicitta, deeply, strongly inspired, to attain or to experience full enlightenment for the sake of not just oneself, for the sake of all living creatures. Being that is the main aim, then to accomplish that aim, then cultivating bodhicitta, and to make that mind stronger, deeper, and what you call the complete. Then many activities, bodhisattvas enter into many engagements, many activities, and these are called Chanju Sembe Joba. So there are many different deeds or activities, and these are summarized. These are put into these six categories, and normally, generally called six perfections. Six perfections. So that's what here from verse 16 that starts, and I don't think you unless you are very new in this topic, majority of you know what are the six perfections: generosity, ethics, or sometimes translated saying morality or ethics, and patience, tolerance, and joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom. These all are, the training the mind, training the individual's mind to have the strength, to have the ability, to have the skills, to work for the sake of others, for the sake of others, for the sake of others. So that is what here from verse 16 from our today's reading, and these six perfections. These six perfections are quite often, the main subject, main topic, by these great texts written by these great masters like Nagarjuna, in his Precious Garland, or those 5 treatises attributed to the Maitreya, and particularly this Dodigen in Tibetan, in English, Ornament of Sutra, Alamkara Sutra, Alamkara Sutra, Ornament of Sutra, Dodigen, very oftenly touched on this topic, on these 6 perfections, why they are put into 6 categories, and what are each perfection, the purpose of each perfection, and so on and so forth. Very nicely, explained in the Ornament of Sutra by by Maitreya. So, and also these 6 perfections can be looked at into one of the classical summarize the practice of the Buddhist path, that is ethics, concentration, and wisdom. Sometimes it's called training, 3 trainings, lavasum, or some, lavasum. So 3 trainings. So the generosity, ethics, and the patience are mainly in the training of ethics, and the number 5, the concentration, the training of the concentration, and number 6, training of wisdom, and number the 4 and 5. Number 4 and 5. Number 4 can be both. That is joyous effort. It can belongs to all the 3 categories. The effort to practice ethics, effort to practice concentration, effort to practice the wisdom. So like that, and which is very useful. Now today, before I read this, I just want to touch the etymology of these 6 perfections, which normally don't talk that much on that. So it is mainly this commentator commented based on Sanskrit term. In Tibetan, the first perfection is called Jimbe Parjin, Jimba. And in Sanskrit, it's called Dana. Da, it seems, refers to poverty. Dana, na is negative. In other words, out of poverty, free from poverty, or absence of poverty, lack. So that is, the so the poverty should not be understood only material poverty. Of course, material poverty is something such as, for example, lacking the basic necessities, food, shelter, medicines, and friendships are something very, very basic necessities. When we are in a lack of these basic necessities, that will really, what you call the shortens, even our lives, cause lots of disease and lots of even not just mental difficulties, but also physical difficulties. Of course, free from lack of material, the necessities are really important. But it is also, the says Ngandula Chupa, the poverty of knowledge, the poverty of wisdom, lack of wisdom, lack of knowledge, lack of good heart. These are also important to be understood as a poverty that we should serve. So that is what dana. So quite often, if you go to Theravadan tradition, the monks, when they go to morning, for their day's food, to the village, and that's called dana. That's what, which is. Then the next one is called, ethics. That is in Sanskrit, shila. And it has a very nice connotation in Sanskrit. Shila, it has a connotation of meaning of what you call the giving, making fresh. When you walk in a very, very hot, sunny day, and when you get a very nice, cool breeze, that really takes away the heat of the sun. Or when you find some kind of shade, a tree or somewhere, find a shade, then that takes away your, the heat, the hotness. And this is what shila, in the sense, the practicing ethics will take away the pressure or the heat of the afflictions, the afflictions. And that's what here, shila, meaning of shila. So ethics, when you talk about ethics, practicing ethics, practicing morality should have that kind of elements, elements of taking away or easing, at least initially, ease off from that difficulty of the affliction. Nimong dongwa selwa, nimong affliction, dongwa, it has that kind of, the sort of, pressure, pressurized by the afflictions. So shila has that kind of connotation. Then the third one is what's called the patience. In Tibetan, soba. In Sanskrit, shanti. I think shanti, something like that. Chaloka, kam shanti. Yeah, soba. So as you know, my Sanskrit reading is not good. That is soba. Soba has a connotation in Tibetan, able to bear, able to stand. Bear or stand. You are able to bear the hardship. You are able to bear the anger that throws upon you, or hatred that throws upon you by somebody. then your mind is able to stand up with that, not retaliating the same with anger, but really not losing your temper and bear or able to stand in that sense, able to withstand, when somebody, criticize you, when somebody, accuse you, when somebody treats you very badly, understand the situation, understand the circumstances, but same time not to retaliate with the same sort of action that withstand. Soba, it says toa soba. Toa literally it means hatred or anger. So you withstand with anger. If somebody soba. Then the next number 5 is number 4 is tundu. That is joyous effort. Joyous effort. It is in Sanskrit. It is kirtiya. Number tam choki tunde ningtop chewa. So it has a connotation of brave. You are braveness. You are brave. That kind of the opposite of coward. That kind of brave. That strength. You have a strength. To continue the hardship. You have a strength to continue the number chokit. It has those several different meanings in Sanskrit. Here the meaning is ningdop chewa. In Tibetan literally it means ning is the heart. Ningdop, that have the power in your heart. Have the power in your heart. Ningdop chewa. So it has that kind of connotation. Then, of course, the next one, which is number 5, is concentration. It is, what you call the dying. Yeah, that is what quite often said in Sanskrit. And it has a meaning of nangdo zimba. It has, in other words, focus inward. Focus inward. Meaning of not scattered your mind. Mind is focus. In the Nangdu Zimba, it has meaning of focusing inward. Focus inward in the sense there's this single pointed, not scattered. Nangdu Zimba de zechik tu chebao. Zechik tu chebao. Share up. Then the 6th one, which is the wisdom. Wisdom. That is panya. It has this, the connotation of sherapte yu tambala shebao. So the meaning of saying, realizing or understanding the meaningful or supreme topics or supreme subjects. My mind knowing the computer, my mind knowing, my wisdom knowing, the computer, or those are also knowledge or share up, in that sense. But here in the 6th, the share up, it refers to the object, what to be known, what to be realized, is not, the ordinary object, an object which has some long-term benefits, like impermanence, like dukkha, and particularly in here, the emptiness, the selflessness. So these are some which normally we don't talk that much as a connotation. So which I thought is quite useful to raise this. Okay, now we're going back to our text. reading. So today we are going to look at the verse 16 and 17, those two verses. And in English, text is now. Okay. Starting from verse saying, since ego's grasping of all phenomena is non-existent, I wish to develop charity without limit in order to benefit all sentient beings. So our reading starts from that verse. So I will read in English, in Tibetan. Dangzin dagir zimbayi, ngobo kunla minepa, semjen kunla menle to, senamachi jindong shou. So that is our today's reading. So this verse really describes, first before we talk that, it is very interesting how the text is structured. Before explaining the six perfection, in detail, and the verse 14 and 15 are the verses explain emptiness. So the bodhisattva deeds, such as generosity, such as concentration, or such as ethics, to be practiced as a perfection of generosity, as a perfection of what you call the ethics. Then the importance to have these what you call the three sort of factors together, which three factors should be what you call the accompany. Three factors should be conjoined or be there when you are practicing generosity, when you are practicing ethics. Then we can call perfection, generosity, perfection of generosity, perfection of ethics. So what are those three, the factors? And three factors are, the bodhicitta, the altruistic mind should be present, or at least in the motivation, and then more dedication. You dedicate your generosity, ethics, all this practice, dedicate for the sake of others, other living beings. Then, the wisdom. Here, the wisdom realizing emptiness. So these three factors are something very, very important to be present. When the individuals engage in these practices, such as generosity, then these practicing generosity will become, the what you call the perfection, the perfection of generosity, perfection of ethics, particularly without the first two, the bodhicitta and the wisdom, bodhicitta and the dedication. Without the presence of these two, the what you call the factors, generosity, not necessarily practicing generosity, not necessarily become generous, perfection of generosity. And ethics not necessarily will become, the perfection of ethics. So that's so to understand that. Then before the detailed explanation of the 6 perfections, the text, the first verse 14 and 15, on this, dealing with the subject of emptiness, is very important to bear in mind. That's what here. Now then, this actual verse, Dangzin Dagiri Zimbai, the first line, Dangzin, it is saying, I as a giver, I as a giver, giver must, if I myself have what's called that I give this gift, then I as a giver is that what's called have the belief or have the grasping of intrinsic or inherent, or then difficult that the generosity, practicing generosity won't become struggle to become perfect, perfection of generosity. So this, the first one here translated saying, since the ego's grasping of all phenomena is non-existence. So in the commentary, Dangzin, the first dak is saying self-grasping. Dagirit Zimba, that refers to the grasping of the phenomena, what we are giving, mind things to give. So that thing that we are giving, that should be also understood within the context of emptiness. Dangzin Dagir Zimbai. Ngobokunla Mineba. Then the next line here, Ngobokunla, that refers to the object. Object, whatever you are given. Object, whatever you are given. Ngobo. Whatever object that you are given, are absence, are not abide in intrinsic or not exist in intrinsic or inherent. Dangzin Tagir Zimbai Ngobokunla Mineba. So having that kind of understanding, I as a giver, the mine object to be given, and the object which are also given to the others, they're all absence of intrinsic or inherent existence. So then the third line, this which I mentioned earlier, saying that in here the translation, wish to develop charity. I'm not sure. The saying that that is the dedication is coming. Dedication in the sense semjen kunla. Semjen means all living beings. Kunla semjen member leto, to benefit. In order to benefit all sentient beings, meleto senamachi, not have what's called sena miserlessness, lack, not have miserlessness, and to practice generosity. Senamachi, jindong sho, jimba is generosity, dongwa is given. May I, without any miserlessness, may I able to practice generosity with the understanding of myself as a giver, empty of inherent existence, object what to be given, and a receiver, and so forth. So that is what here, in other words, here quite often says korsum, jimbe korsum, and which is quite useful, the giver, the actions to be given, and the receiver. These three, korsum, giver, the person who gives, action, the activities to be, and then also receiver. All these three should be, understood when we practice the generosity. Should be understood within the context of absence of inherent existence, and that is what. And then, which I mentioned earlier, that intention intended by the motivation, intended by the bodhicitta, and it dedicated, your action dedicated for the sake of all living beings. So, share some, and that is really something important. Particularly to first out of those three factors, first two factors. Of course, wisdom will come, but first two factors: bodhicitta and the dedication. Then the next verse, the verse, the 17, which here in English, phenomena do not exist. May the lack of material resources not hinder me. All things are impermanent. Therefore, I wish to accomplish perfection of charity. Okay. Now, which I mentioned, the three rounds, three calls in Tibetan called kosum, three spheres, sometimes translated, or three, I don't know, tongwapo, giver, tongje ze, sometimes counted the object to be given, tongje ze, kangla tongwa, to whom to be given, sometimes counted like that, sometimes counted the second one instead of the object, the action, what to be given. So not that much difference, but here counted, the second one counted as what is given. Where's the second one? Okay, now then the verse 17. Verse 17. Ngobo ngobo machibe in Tibetan. Ngobo ngobo machibe dagi longju hindu show. So the first two lines are one meaning. One meaning. Ngobo tamje so kambani de dese tongwapo tongje denshin number jigbe gwani jimbe paro jogwa juji. 대다로 동네 체 진제 뒤에 뭐고 탐제 덴베 뒤에 뭐고 마치베. So in here they put it phenomena, use two words and to repeat it that one. The meaning here is the verse 17, first line in Tibetan. Ngobo machibe. The meaning is this, the phenomena which are given, phenomena or things which are given. These things do not exist inherently, intrinsically. Ngobo machibe. Machiba in the sense intrinsically, intrinsically non-existent. Machibe. Machiba sheshi. Knowing that, having that knowledge, having that into your understanding, the phenomena which are given, they do not have any intrinsic nature. Having that knowledge, having that understanding, sheshin, dagi tongju longju gi ngobu tamje bemen hungi, hundruk the chungwasho. That the second now I'm reading the second line in the verse 17 in Tibetan. Dagi longju hundruk sho. That object, the things that I have given, these things may become very spontaneously, what's called bundle in the sense, have lots. It is not saying to have lots to me, to giver, it's saying have lots to the other people, the receiver. The receiver, that the second line, dagi longju hunduksho. It's in Tibetan. It seems saying my sort of prosperity to be spontaneously bundle or spontaneously. It is not in the commentary. Meaning is not like that. Dage tongju longju ji ngobo tamje beme hundu jungwa sho. That object that I have given, even it's small, in a piece of bread or whatever that I've given this with the notion of it doesn't have any intrinsic entity, and that object to be received as some kind of bundle, huge quantity or spontaneous sort of the increase. And that is the meaning of that. The verse 17, first two lines. Dagi longju hunduksho. Ngobo tamje nam jikpe jimbe paro chenzo shu. Now in the last two lines, in verse 17. Te se tonga podo tongje ze korsum ngobo tamje denshin number jikpe. So here translated as a something impermanent. I think it is a little bit not correct, I think, according to this commentary. Here it says, all things are impermanent. I think why they translated impermanent, saying in Tibetan there's a jikpa. That I don't think that is the real meaning here. It's here according to this commentary. That those three things, giver, what is given, and the receiver, all these three things are absence or empty of intrinsically existence, and this is what number jikpa. In other, jikpa that's in here. Number jikpa. Gone and jimbe paro shows. So in other words, my grasping, my true grasping to these three objects to be, scattered, not scattered, to be what's called destroyed. In that sense, jikpa. Destroyed or not exist anymore. And through that, my practicing generosity to be perfected. And that is the meaning of last two lines. Okay. That is the today's our reading. Okay. So we will stop here and we will say the prayers to 21 taros. Kodal hai ne jone tami jambo le donsh ba meje ola je tusum sanje chine doma koje she so thada thami chebe shabje pemo la tu ne phongba kon doma yom la chance. Om je ma pa ma do ma la chanze do ma nyu ma pa mo je ne ke ji lo da da ji den sung gun che ge she je ka sa je wang chanze dong ge ta wa do kang wa je ne ze be she ka ma dong da cho be na ma je ra do che chanze se me che ne je be me chan ne na ma Jimba Tsundu Kadu She wa Sewa Samden Chu Chanze De Shin Shebe Tu Do Tai Mambara Dewa Chun Malu Baro Jimba To Ben Dewe Seki Chindu Chanze Tu Da Rahung Ye Ge Du Da Cho Da Jiden Dombo Shaki Nen De Lupa Meba Chanze Gyajin Mela Zang Ba Lung La Na Zo Wan Jo Che Jombo Rang La Desa Namanda Nijun So Jin chanze cheche chadang pe je paro chogo rang ye gong yun jang shaki nen de mabar chobang shin do chanze dure je kwa chen bo du je pa wo na chu je chen ne chong ni den de chao tam je ma chanze kun jo sum zen cha de se me to ga na ma lu cho je ko lo jen be rang je we je song che chanze rab do ka wa je be u jin we je chang ma Sheba Rakshi Dudara Ye Dudan Jidan Chanze Sashi Yongwe So Nama Tamje Guba Chunye Yawa Yige Hong De Pungba Tamje Chanze Dawe Dombo O Jemba Tamje Shindo Rebe Chune Oba Mele Dabar Shindo Ramazan Chanze Kebe Tama Me Barwe Tingwe Ejan Yongo Kune Koro Ke Daye Pungye chanze sashi ngola cha ge tegi me chi cha ge do chonye jenze yige hong ge rinpa tumbo na ge chanze dema ge ma she ma nyangen de shin ju ni so wa da yang da de de ba chenpo chomba chanze ku ne ko ro ga ye da ye lu ne ige ju be nga ne ko be ka hong ne ko chanze tu re sham ne da be hong ge na be sa be Rira Mendara Dambi, Jiden Sumna Yewani, Chanze Lai Soye Nambe, Rita Tajen Chan, Tarani Ju Peji Ye, Duna Maluba, Chanze Lai Sonum Yevo, Hadam Yam Ji, Gune Goja Kawa Ji, Jodan Menamang Basen, Chanze Nima Tawa Ye, Jini Pola, Harani Ju Dudara, Shindo Takuri Nesen. chanze tingi sumnam kwe shiwe tudang yang dante de dang rang la nu jun so nama jomba dore zawe nga di deba de da chanze wa ne ni yu ta chanjo sencho renpo che ma je pa na ma je jo je ba nyam ba me ba kong ne kong to pe Kare Rave Kore Shingang Pendang Dewa Manu Jongwe Chenre Senwa Tenzin Jazo Shabe Side Pado Tenju Chen Oh yeah. Thank you very much and take care and see you soon. Thank you.